Hey there! Welcome back to Echoes of Fear. Tonight's story begins with a driver who thought he was only taking one last ride to make a little extra cash. But what he found waiting for him in the darkness was something he could never escape. And the only sounds outside were crickets, the occasional barking dog, and the distant hum of traffic from the highway. Vincent Herrera sat slouched in the driver's seat of his aging Honda Accord, parked at the edge of a gas station lot. His back ached from 10 hours on the road, his knees stiff from pumping the brake pedal in stop-and-go traffic earlier that evening. A nearly empty styrofoam cup of gas station coffee sat in the cup holder, the bitter liquid long gone cold, a thin ring of sludge clinging to the bottom. He rubbed his eyes and sighed. He had told himself he would quit at 11 sharp. He had told himself that one more ride wasn't worth it, that his body needed rest, and that his wife, Isabel, would be annoyed if he stumbled in after midnight smelling like sweat and gasoline. But rent was due in 3 days, and Isabel had already asked him twice if they could stretch the grocery money until Friday. Vincent hated that look in her eyes when she asked, half embarrassed, half resigned. He hated feeling like he couldn't provide. So when his phone buzzed with the familiar notification chime, he glanced at it out of habit. Ride request. Pick up 6 blocks away. Destination, Naples. Fare, $297.43. Vincent blinked. Nearly $300 for one trip. His finger hovered over the decline button. Naples was a long drive, at least 3 hours one way. By the time he got back, dawn would be breaking, and he'd be wrecked for the rest of the week. But $300. That was a week's worth of groceries. That was enough to cover the overdue electric bill sitting on the kitchen counter. Vincent cursed under his breath, stretched his stiff fingers, and tapped accept. All right, one last fare. Just one more, and then I'm done. He started the engine. The old Accord shuddered before settling into a low hum, like it was just as tired as he was. As he pulled out of the gas station, the digital clock on the dash ticked to 11:44 p.m. He told himself he'd be home by dawn. He told himself this was just another ride. He told himself a lot of things. The pickup location wasn't far. 6 blocks down, near an aging strip mall that looked like it had seen better decades. Even from a distance, Vincent could see that most of the storefronts were dark. A laundromat's neon open 24 hours sign buzzed faintly, casting a harsh green glow across the cracked pavement. Beside it, a Chinese restaurant stood shuttered, its sign flickering weakly, as though it reluctant to admit it had been abandoned years ago. Vincent slowed the car, eyes scanning the lot. At first, he thought it was empty. Just oil stains on the asphalt, a few scattered carts from the dollar store across the street, and a plastic bag drifting like a ghost in the night air. Then he saw him. A figure stood beneath the half-dead sign of the Chinese place, perfectly still, hands clasped behind his back as if waiting for an appointment that had been delayed. Vincent pulled up to the curb, rolling down the passenger side window. "You the ride to Naples?" he called out. The man stepped forward. Tall, easily over 6 feet, maybe 6'3". His build was lean, but not the kind of lean that came from skipping meals, more like the kind honed deliberately, carefully, as though sculpted. His hair was shock white, not the yellowed gray of old age, but a clean silver white that shimmered beneath the fluorescent light. It was swept neatly back from a high forehead. Even in the dim glow, Vincent saw the glint of expensive fabric. A charcoal wool overcoat draped across his shoulders, falling past his knees. Beneath it, the lines of a tailored suit, perfectly fitted, utterly inappropriate for a midnight rideshare pickup outside a dying laundromat. Vincent swallowed. People wore hoodies and sweatpants for late-night rides, not Armani. The man approached with measured steps. Not fast, not slow, just precise. Each movement economical, like someone who had long ago stripped his body of wasted gestures. When he reached the window, he inclined his head slightly. His eyes were pale, almost colorless in the dim light. "Vincent Herrera," he said. Not asked, stated. Vincent's grip on the steering wheel tightened. Yeah, that's me. Thank you for accepting the request at such a late hour." The voice was smooth, cultivated, old money, old education, the kind of tone Vincent had only ever heard in movies or in courtrooms when high-priced attorneys were talking. Something about the way the man said his name sent a prickle crawling up the back of his neck. Not just his first name, his full name, crisp, precise. Vincent forced a chuckle, though it came out strained. "Well, long trip ahead of us. You sure you don't want to fly instead?" "I prefer the road," the man said, stepping past the window. He opened the rear door and slid inside with a fluid grace that didn't match his age. The door shut with a soft, deliberate click. Vincent adjusted the rearview mirror, catching his first clear look at his passenger's face. Older, maybe 60, but not frail. His skin had the translucent quality that came with age, stretched taut over sharp cheekbones. His eyes, icy, calculating, moved constantly, cataloging details as though filing them away for later. Vincent cleared his throat. "All right, then Naples it is." The man folded his hands in his lap, posture unnervingly straight. "Yes, Naples." Vincent shifted into drive, rolling the car out of the lot and onto the road. The city around them was winding down. Bars closing, trucks heading toward the highway, traffic thinning to almost nothing. Vincent found himself hyper-aware of the quiet figure in the back seat. The smell of his cologne, sharp, faintly medicinal, cut through the stale coffee stink of the car. He tried for small talk. "So, Naples, what takes you down there this time of night? Business? Family?" "A reunion of sorts. Some old acquaintances. We have unfinished matters to conclude." The way he said it made Vincent's stomach tighten. Not the words themselves, but the tone. Calm, deliberate, as if unfinished matters meant something heavier than a dinner meeting. Vincent nodded slowly, eyes back on the road. "Got it. Well, you've got the right driver. Straight shot across the state. I'll get you there." "Of course you will," the man said softly. Vincent glanced once more in the mirror. His eyes were fixed not on the passing scenery, but on Vincent himself, watching, waiting. And though he told himself it was just another ride, he couldn't shake the feeling that he'd just let something dangerous into his car. For the first 30 minutes, the drive was uneventful. Orlando's neon glow faded behind them, replaced by long stretches of dark highway. Gas stations flickered by every few miles, lonely islands of light in an ocean of asphalt and shadow. The road was quiet, just a handful of trucks lumbering west and the occasional pair of headlights slipping past in the opposite lane. Vincent welcomed the silence at first. After a long day, quiet passengers were a blessing. No drunk college kids singing off-key, no tourists demanding playlists or detours, just a smooth, steady ride and a generous fare at the end. But there was something about this man's silence that wasn't restful. It wasn't the easy quiet of someone lost in thought. It was measured, intentional, like every second he wasn't speaking was a decision. Tension. So, Naples, you got family down there or just business? The man's reflection flickered in the rearview mirror. He sat upright, hands folded neatly in his lap. A reunion, he said. Old acquaintances. Old debts. Vincent chuckled nervously. Sounds serious. High school reunion vibes or more like business partners? The man didn't smile. Not the kind of partners one forgets. Vincent pressed his lips together. That cologne, sharp, sterile, was filling the car. He cracked his window just an inch, pretending it was for the night air. To distract himself, he shifted the topic. So you live in Orlando or just passing through? The man's reflection flickered in the rearview mirror. He sat upright, hands folded neatly in his lap. You tell me. The words landed heavier than they should have. Vincent forced a laugh, though it came out strained. Ha! I don't even know your name, man. You're the mystery here, not me. But the man leaned forward slightly, his face half in shadow. Do you ever think about your time in Miami, Vincent? Vincent's foot eased off the gas without him realizing. The name Miami hit like a punch to the gut. He gripped the wheel tighter. Miami? I've been through a couple times, nothing memorable. Oh, I think you remember. The man's tone was calm, almost conversational. 15 years ago, the Miami of back rooms and side streets, the Miami of locked doors and quiet screams. Vincent's throat went dry. He kept his eyes fixed on the highway, refusing to look in the mirror. You've got the wrong guy. The man sat back, voice smooth as silk. Francisco Miguel Carrera, born in Tampa, 1978. Mother, Maria Santos. She worked at Tampa General. Died in 2004. Father, unknown. You attended Hillsborough Community College for 2 semesters. Dropped out. Chose a different kind of education. Every word made Vincent's pulse spike. He hadn't heard his middle name in years, hadn't told anyone his mother's maiden name since his early 20s. The air in the car felt heavier now, suffocating. I don't know how you married Isabel Restrepo in 2009. She works at Dr. Patel's dental office now on West Shore Boulevard. She's lovely, loyal. I imagine she knows nothing of your former life. Vincent's hands were white-knuckled on the wheel. His voice cracked when he spoke. Who the hell are you? The man sat back again, his silhouette calm against the passing blur of highway lights. Someone with a long memory and longer patience. Someone who believes debts must always be paid. The silence that followed was unbearable. The hum of the tires, the faint rattle of the air vent, even the distant howl of a truck's horn felt too loud, too exposed. Vincent considered pulling off at the next exit, a police station, a gas station, anywhere with people. But he already knew
This wasn't the kind of man you could escape just by pulling over. And worse than the fear was the recognition. Deep down, Vincent knew this stranger wasn't wrong. The past he'd buried, the faces he'd forced himself to forget, they weren't gone. They were just waiting for the right night to crawl back out. And tonight, they had found him. The miles slipped by in silence. Dark fields stretched endlessly on either side of the highway, broken only by the occasional billboard advertising fast food or adult arcades. Vincent's heart was thundering so hard it felt like the entire car could hear it. He wanted to speak, to demand answers, to tell the man to get out, but every time he opened his mouth, he stopped himself. There was a weight to his passenger's presence, a quiet authority that told him words would change nothing. Finally, the man shifted. His hand slipped into the inner pocket of his coat, and Vincent's stomach lurched. For a split second, he thought a weapon was coming out. His hands tensed on the wheel, ready to swerve, ready to fight. But it wasn't a gun. It was a photograph. The man held it up to catch the faint glow of the dashboard lights, angling it so Vincent could see in the rearview mirror. Even upside down, even after all these years, Vincent recognized the image. A younger version of himself, standing in front of a white panel van, arm draped casually around the shoulders of a girl. Thin, dark hair, couldn't have been older than 17. His breath caught. The highway blurred. The man's voice dropped slower, quieter, but no less sharp. Her name was Carmen. Carmen Vega. Do you remember her now? The name detonated inside Vincent's skull. Memories surged forward, jagged and unwanted. Carmen. Sweet, timid Carmen, who trusted him when he offered her a job, who believed him when he said it was just quick money, nothing dangerous, and who had followed him into that warehouse, smiling nervously, her faith in him outweighing her instincts, and who had realized, too late, that there was no job, only instruments, only cold steel and shadows. His breath came ragged, his vision tunneled. He whispered almost to himself, "That was a long time ago." Yes, but memory does not measure time as we do. It lives outside of calendars. It waits, patient as rot, and it always resurfaces. Vincent Knuckles had gone bloodless on the steering wheel. His voice cracked when he spoke. "I didn't—" "Didn't what?" The man interrupted sharply. "Didn't mean to? Didn't enjoy it? Didn't profit from it? Tell me, which lie comforts you when you wake up at night?" The air in the car was suffocating. The steady thrum of the tires was drowned out by the pounding in Vincent's ears. He tried to focus on the road, but the memory of Carmen's face, her wide, terrified eyes, was clawing its way to the surface, refusing to be buried again. He croaked out, "I'm not that person anymore." The man tilted his head, studying him with something like pity, but sharper. "That's where you're wrong. You are exactly that person. A predator disguised as a chauffeur. You drive at night, ferrying strangers through the dark. Do you think the uniform changes the truth? A badge on an app doesn't make you safe?" His chest heaved. "I've never hurt anyone since then. I've tried—" The man cut him off with a quiet, lethal certainty. "Intentions don't erase blood. Regret doesn't resurrect the dead. Carmen is gone, and you are still here. That imbalance is the debt." The photograph lowered slowly, deliberately, as if the man were savoring Vincent's unraveling. His icy gaze never broke, piercing through the mirror straight into Vincent's skull. "Tell me," the man said softly, almost like a prayer, "where are the others?" Vincent's mouth went dry. His grip on a wheel faltered. He wanted to deny it, to feign ignorance, but the man already knew. Somehow, impossibly, he knew. And in that moment, Vincent realized this ride wasn't about money. It wasn't about Naples. It was about judgment. And judgment had finally caught up to him. The road stretched endlessly before them, a ribbon of black asphalt cutting through the heart of Florida. The headlights carved tunnels into the darkness, but beyond their reach lay only shadow. Vincent gripped the steering wheel like a lifeline, the leather slick beneath his palms. His passenger's voice still echoed in his ears, louder than the engine, louder than the tires whispering against the road. Carmen. Carmen Vega. Her name was a ghost. The man adjusted his coat, settling deeper into the seat. His voice was calm, almost casual, but it carried the weight of a gavel. Do you know what I've learned in 15 years, Vincent? The past is never buried. It seeps through cracks. It waits, patient as rot. And it always, always resurfaces. Vincent shook his head, forcing a dry laugh that sounded more like a cough. You've got the wrong guy. I'm just a driver, a husband. I pay rent. I pay taxes. I'm 23. The single number cut through his denial like a blade. Vincent's breath hitched. What are you talking about? The man leaned forward, resting his hands on the back of the passenger seat. His pale eyes glowed faintly in the reflected light from the dashboard. 23 people. They went into your warehouse in Little Havana. They never
came out. The police found instruments, records of transactions, traces of blood, but not the bodies. Never the bodies. Vincent's chest tightened. His knuckles whitened again on the wheel. Stop! Don't! 23, Vincent. The man repeated, each syllable deliberate. Men, women, children. They thought they were selling plasma, bone marrow, a kidney at most. $5,000 for a simple procedure. That's what you told them, isn't it? The memories slammed into him like a storm, the flyers taped to telephone poles, the desperate faces who'd walked willingly through the warehouse doors. His promises, his lies, the sting of antiseptic, the cold metal tables, the silence after the screams. He whispered, barely audible, That was a lifetime ago. The man's voice sharpened. No, that was a choice. Your choice. And choices don't dissolve with time. They linger. They rot. They demand reckoning. Vincent's vision blurred with the weight of it all. His throat burned. I didn't kill them. I never touched the scalpel. You orchestrated it. You recruited them. You led them inside. Without you, there would have been no operation. Don't pretend clean hands just because you let others hold the knife. Silence filled the car, heavy, suffocating. The man leaned back again, his voice dropping to a cold whisper. You've been running for 15 years, Vincent. Changing names, switching towns, hiding in plain sight behind the wheel of a car. But tell me, Vincent, did you really think 23 souls would simply let you go? Vincent swallowed hard, his throat clicking. He wanted to argue, to fight back, but the words refused to come. Because deep down, beneath all the denial, he knew the man was right. The bodies were still out there, somewhere in the darkness of the Everglades. And the debt was still unpaid. The hum of the tires was the only sound for a long stretch, but Vincent's mind wasn't quiet. It was screaming. Each second felt heavier,
the silence pressing against his skull until he thought it might crush him. Then the man spoke again, his tone almost gentle, like a teacher coaxing a child. "You know where they are, don't you? The ones who never came back out." Vincent's throat tightened, his foot wavered on the gas. He wanted to lie, to shake his head, to claim ignorance, but the words refused to leave his mouth. His silence was an answer in itself. The man's pale eyes locked onto his in the mirror. "Say it." Vincent licked his dry lips. The Glades. The words were barely more than a whisper. The man leaned forward, his expression unreadable. "Where in the Glades?" Vincent swallowed, forcing the words past his clenched jaw. "South of Alligator Alley, Old Service Road, mile marker 72. There's a canal. We used to call it Blackwater Ditch." For a moment the man said nothing, just stared. The silence was worse than his words. Vincent's chest heaved. He couldn't stop now. Once the door was open, everything came rushing out. We dumped them there. All of them. The heat, the water, the animals. It eats everything. No evidence. No graves." The man closed his eyes briefly, as though savoring the confession. When he opened them again, they gleamed with something that wasn't quite satisfaction. It was darker, deeper. "So you admit it," he said softly. Vincent gripped the steering wheel so tightly his fingers ached. "I didn't want this. You wanted money. You wanted power. And you thought no one would ever find out."
Vincent's breath came fast and shallow. His voice cracked. "I've tried to change. I've tried to live differently. Please, you don't understand. I have a wife. I have a life now." The man's gaze was like a knife. "And Carmen had a life waiting for her, too. Do you remember what you took from her?" Vincent couldn't answer. His vision swam. The road in front of him twisted and warped, the lines blurring with the tears he refused to shed. The man leaned closer, his voice low, deliberate. "You can bury flesh. You can sink bones. But memory? Memory doesn't rot. The dead don't stay buried, Vincent. They claw their way back. And tonight, they found you." The words lingered in the air like smoke, poisoning every breath Vincent took. In the distance, the highway sign flashed. Naples, 45 miles. But Vincent already knew. He wasn't driving toward Naples. He was driving toward judgment. The green highway sign faded in the rear view, swallowed by the dark. Vincent's eyes flicked toward it instinctively, as if that glowing text, Naples, 45 miles, could somehow save him. But it didn't. It was just another reminder of the distance still left, of how long this ride could drag on before the inevitable. The passenger hadn't moved much. He sat with the patience of a predator, calm and coiled. Only his eyes betrayed him, cold, fixed on Vincent, like he was already measuring the weight of his life. Vincent's hands trembled on the wheel. His voice cracked when he spoke. "Look, I told you the truth. I don't do that anymore. Whatever you think I owe, it's over. Let me drive you to Naples. You'll never see me again." The man tilted his head slowly, his lips curving into the faintest ghost of a smile. "You still don't understand, do you? This ride doesn't end in Naples." A chill ripped through Vincent's spine. He forced himself to laugh, though it came out hollow, brittle. "Then where does it end?" The man leaned forward, his breath cold against Vincent's ear. "Where it began, in the dark, among the bodies you left behind." Vincent's pulse spiked. He pressed harder on the accelerator, the car humming louder, the speedometer climbing. Maybe if he reached a town, anywhere with lights, people, he could find a way out. But the man noticed, his voice cut sharp. "Slow down." Vincent shook his head, gripping the wheel tighter. "No, I'm not letting you." The passenger moved with startling speed. In a flash, something cold pressed against Vincent's ribs. Not a knife, not a gun. Something stranger. A syringe. Vincent gasped, eyes darting down, then snapping back to the road.
What the hell is that?" The man's voice was calm, almost clinical. "Insurance. A dose of ketamine. Enough to put down a horse. You jerk this car, you try to run, your heart stops before we hit the ditch." Vincent's entire body went rigid. His foot eased off the gas, the car slowing to a steady crawl just above the limit. "That's better," the man whispered, settling back, syringe still poised like a loaded gun. "Now listen closely. You're going to keep driving until I tell you to stop. No detours, no gas stations, no police. If you try, Isabel will pay the price." Vincent's throat clenched. The mention of his wife's name cut deeper than the syringe ever could. How do you know her?" The man smiled faintly, but it didn't reach his eyes. "I've been watching you for a long time." Vincent's stomach dropped. His life, his new life, wasn't hidden. It had been under surveillance all along. Every smile from Isabel, every dinner, every ordinary day tainted by unseen eyes. The man leaned closer, voice like ice. "You took Carmen from me. You buried her in the swamp. Tonight, Vincent, I'll take you back there, and you'll know what it feels like to disappear." Vincent's chest heaved, his vision shaking. The highway stretched endlessly ahead, but he knew now, this wasn't just a ride, it was an execution. The miles bled together, the highway unraveling into a blur of darkness and fractured light. Vincent's hands clung to the wheel, knuckles bone white, sweat dripping down his spine despite the chill of the night. The passenger sat as still as a statue. He didn't need to threaten anymore. His silence pressed heavier than words, a suffocating weight that filled the cabin until Vincent could hardly breathe. Finally, the passenger broke the silence. His voice was soft, measured. "Take the next exit." Vincent swallowed hard. The green sign rose ahead, letters stenciled against the void. "CR 832, Everglades Prideway." His chest constricted. He knew this road too well. No, Vincent whispered, shaking his head. "Not there. Please." The man leaned forward, the tip of the syringe brushing Vincent's ribs. "Do it." With a strangled groan, Vincent flicked the turn signal and veered onto the ramp. The road narrowed, the world outside swallowed by swamp and shadow. Palmettos closed in like skeletal arms, and the air grew thicker, heavier, as if the earth itself remembered. For miles they drove in silence, deeper into the black heart of the Everglades. The highway gave way to cracked asphalt, then to dirt, the tires crunching over forgotten ground. Each bump jarred Vincent's teeth. Every turn felt like a nail sealing his coffin. "Stop here," the man said at last. Vincent's heart hammered. He eased the car to the shoulder, headlights cutting a weak tunnel into the swamp. Frogs croaked somewhere out in the dark. Mosquitoes tacked against the glass. The man pocketed his syringe, his movements unhurried. He reached into his coat and pulled out something else, a folded photograph. He held it up, where Vincent could see. It was Carmen again, smiling, alive, frozen forever in the instant before her trust betrayed her. Vincent's breath caught, his throat burned. "Why show me that?" The man opened the rear door, the swamp air rushing in, damp and fetid. "So you remember what you did. So you understand why you're here." He gestured to the trees, his voice sharp as broken glass. "Out. Now." Vincent felt his legs, felt numb, but he forced the door open. The ground sucked at his shoes, wet and spongy. Crickets screamed in the dark. The night pressed close, thick and alive with unseen things. The man stepped out after him, impossibly composed, as though this place were his cathedral, and Vincent the sinner brought to kneel. "Walk," he ordered. Vincent stumbled forward, branches clawing at his clothes, mud swallowing his steps. He knew where they were going before he saw it, before the trees parted and the moonlight revealed a stagnant lake, its surface black and still as oil. His chest collapsed inward, his vision tunneled. No, God, no. Because he remembered this place. He remembered the weight of plastic-wrapped bundles sliding beneath the water. He remembered the silence that followed. the swamp swallowing the screams forever. And now, the swamp wanted him back.
The swamp was silent, as if even the insects knew to hold their breath. Vincent stood trembling at the water's edge, the sour smell of rot and stagnant algae curling into his nostrils. His shoes sank into the mud with every step, the earth itself dragging him down. Behind him, the man's footsteps were deliberate, steady, each one carrying the weight of judgment. When he spoke, his words cut through the still air like a blade. "This is where they rest, isn't it, Vincent? This is where you made their voices disappear." Vincent shook his head wildly, tears blurring his vision. I didn't kill them. I just took what they offered. They knew what they were getting into." The man's laugh was low and humorless. "You tell yourself that to sleep at night? That they volunteered? That Carmen volunteered?" Vincent dropped to his knees, the mud splashing up around him. His body shook violently, not from the cold, but from the crushing weight of memories clawing their way out of the grave he had buried them in. "I was desperate. I owed money. I didn't have a choice." "There's always a choice," he snapped, his voice suddenly venomous. "And you chose greed. You chose blood." He stepped closer, the syringe glinting in his hand once again, a tiny spark of moonlight kissing its needle. Vincent's eyes widened in terror. He scrambled backwards, slipping, falling into the muck. His palms hit the wet ground with a sickening slap. "No, please, please, I can change. I'm not that man anymore. I swear." The man crouched down, face inches from Vincent's, his eyes cold as Arctic ice. "Change? The serpent doesn't shed its skin to become something new. It sheds it to grow larger, stronger. You've hidden your hunger, Vincent, but it never left you." Vincent sobbed, his breath ragged. His hands fumbled against the earth, searching for anything, stone, stick, weapon. His fingers closed around a jagged rock slick with moss. With a roar born of primal desperation, he swung. The rock connected with the man's temple with a dull crack. He staggered back, blood trickling down the side of his face. The syringe fell into the mud, vanishing instantly into the black water. For a heartbeat, silence. Then, slowly, the man straightened, wiped the blood with his thumb, smiled. "You just proved my point." Vincent froze, the rock slipping from his grasp. His chest heaved as terror gnawed at the edges of his sanity. The man wasn't angry. He wasn't even hurt. He looked almost pleased. "Violence is who you are, Vincent. No matter how far you run, it waits for you." The swamp bubbled faintly, as if in agreement. The swamp air grew heavier, pressing on Vincent's lungs like a vice. He stumbled backwards, feet sinking deeper into the muck. His mind screamed for escape, but every direction looked the same. Black water, twisted trees, endless night. The man advanced with calm certainty, each step deliberate, as if he had all the time in the world. The blood at his temple glistened, but he didn't falter. Instead, his smile widened, faint and chilling. "Do you feel it?" he asked, his voice low, almost reverent. "The weight of this place. It remembers, Vincent. The earth remembers. Every scream, every struggle, every drop of blood." Vincent's chest heaved. His fingers clawed through the mug, desperate for something solid. But there was nothing, only rot, slime, and shadows. "I can't go back there," Vincent gasped. "I can't. I'll die if I do." The man tilted his head, eyes burning cold. "You already did. 15 years ago when you put Carmen in the ground. Everything since then has just been a shadow walking." The words struck like a hammer. Vincent's breath hitched, tears streaking down his face. He staggered toward the water, trembling, as if drawn by a force greater than himself. The lake lay before him, dark and glassy. Moonlight shimmered faintly on its surface, a cruel mirror reflecting his broken figure. The man's voice followed, sharp as a blade. "Kneel!" Vincent's knees buckled. The muck swallowed him to the shins. He sobbed, hands shaking violently, as he reached for mercy that wasn't there. "I don't want to die," he whispered. The man stepped closer, his shadow spilling over Vincent like a shroud. He crouched, placed a cold hand against Vincent's trembling shoulder, and whispered into his ear, "You're not dying, Vincent. You're joining them." With a sudden, brutal shove, the man pushed. Vincent tumbled forward, crashing into the water. The cold swallowed him instantly, wrapping around his chest like iron chains. He thrashed, clawing at the surface, but the muck below sucked him down deeper and deeper. His lungs burned, his vision fractured. The stars above flickered like dying embers. And in his final moments, as the swamp closed over his head, Vincent swore he heard voices beneath the water, dozens of them, whispering, crying, calling his name. Then, silence. The man stood at the shore, watching the ripples fade into stillness. His expression was unreadable, carved from stone. Slowly, he reached into his coat, pulled out the faded photograph of Carmen, and held it up to the moonlight. Justice. At last. He tucked the photo away, turned, and walked calmly back to the waiting car. The swamp kept its secret, as it always had. And just like that, the swamp swallowed Vincent forever. No police reports, no missing person alerts. Just another man erased by the darkness he once created. Some say places like that never forget, that the ground itself holds grudges deeper than time. But here's the thing. That passenger, the silver-haired man with the icy eyes, he never showed up in any records. No hotel check-ins, no business meetings. No trace of him ever being in Naples that night, almost as if he vanished the same way Vincent did. So who was he really? A grieving uncle? A ghost from Vincent's past? Or something much older, something the swamp itself sent to collect a debt? Maybe we'll never know. But one thing's certain, the past has a way of finding you, no matter how far or fast you run.